Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Wednesday webinar presented by ECADE. I am Randolph Fiojul, the Junior Communications Officer for the organization. This webinar is part of a series to keep members of the Alliance and our wider network engaged during this time. This session aims to create a space to maintain connections among and stimulate our community, which is distant and struggling with solitude due to COVID-19 control measures. ECADE will use this platform to continue the capacity, development, and sensitization of grassroots human rights defenders and organizations, particularly in the Eastern Caribbean. It will also serve to highlight issues and activities of note. Each session will provide an activist within ECADE's network the opportunity to share their knowledge and experience and further develop their facilitation or presentation skills. Today's session, part 2 of Media and Advocacy, is led by Milton Coy, media trainer, consultant, human rights and social justice advocate, managing director, Conception News Network, News Information and Activism, founder, president, Grenada Human Rights Organization, GHRO, Inc., lead facilitator, CAMS Training Institute, a graduate of UWI St. Augustine Trinidad, Public Education and Keville Barbados, Mass Media and Communication Studies, Boston School of Journalism, and Alfred Friendly School for Diplomacy and Advocacy, Boston, USA. Milton is currently the team leader, community activist at Mount Pleasant, Carriacou, Grenada, and manager of the Mount Pleasant Community Center. He also represents human rights interests on the National Human Rights Coordinating Committee of Grenada. Just a few notes before we begin with Milton's presentation. Please keep in mind that today's session is being recorded for YouTube. Mute your mic when you are not speaking. If you need to make a comment or ask a question, please use the Zoom raise hand option. And as always, let us be respectful in our comments. I will now turn over to Milton Coy of GHRO, a member of the Alliance. Welcome, Milton, and Milton will begin his presentation with us now.
Okay, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. It's certainly a pleasure to be here today with you as we continue basically what we have started actually last week. I want to say pleasant good afternoon again to all our participants, no matter where you are, and glad that you can be part of this exciting journey. It's a learning experience for us, talk about building capacity, and so we're going to be just doing that. And we hope at the end of it all, we are going to be stronger in our advocacy as we continue to seek change around the Caribbean, around the world, wherever you might be at this time. So I would want to say here to all, welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you who are here with us, I would like you to please indicate what country are you from. You know, like Carriacou, Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia. Please indicate. There are not very many of us yet, but I would like each one of us here present to indicate. I begin with me, starting with me. Okay. Milton Coy, Grenada Human Rights Organization. I'm at present located in Carriacou, Grenada. Okay.
Hi,
Well,
I'm Stella Ashby from St. Lucia, and I'm the Programs Officer of ECADE.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Anybody else, please?
My name is Mary Rivera, and I'm from Carriacou, Grenada, Grenada Human Rights Organization.
Thank you very much, Mary.
My name is Josephine Lubin, and I work with ECADE in St. Lucia.
Okay, Josephine, thanks for participating. Thanks for coming here again.
My name is Anita Lua in Grenada.
Okay, Anita, thank you so very much for participating. Grenada. Who else do we have in the house? Okay, from Carol, Call Queen. All right.
Hi, hello everyone. I am Carl McEwan. I am a member of GHRO LBQ Women and Transmasculine Network in Guyana. The name of my organization is GHRO.
Okay, Carl, I'm certainly glad to have you out of Guyana. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Zenzeli Pemberton from Civis Nevis Alliance for Equality, and I'm from St. Kitts.
St. Kitts, glad to have you to be part of this. Welcome, welcome. Who else do we have?
Hi, my name is Shifani, and I am also part of Guyana Human Rights Organization.
Okay, good. Shifani, thanks. Who else we have? We do have a few more. Let's get this part up and running. Who else do we have? Trying to just get an idea to do it. Others are still joining. Of course, all right. Well, we think we have basically most people who are on, say, with a phone.
I think everyone has mentioned I think we have everyone so far was mentioned.
Okay, all right. So happy that you have made it today. For some, it might be it would have been a rough time getting here, but you made it. Whatever it is, glad where you're from, whatever you're from, glad that you can be here with us. Okay, I'm just trying to get, I'm seeing Masha is trying to join us. All right, let me just.
I already let her in.
Okay, good.
Yes, I'll be managing the waiting room, so you can just go ahead with your presentation.
Okay then. All right, I'm just getting a couple things here. Some technical things that we need to sort out while we get this going. All right, so I think we are there now, right? Thank you so very, very much. All right, so that we are here. Last week when we discussed this issue about media and advocacy, I promised that I was going to start with focusing on the media as just let me make sure that I have everything that I need to have input. Okay. Yes. What are you seeing on the screen? Just kind of indicate what are you seeing on the screen, because we need to make sure that we have. Are you seeing the welcome still? Or you're seeing my next slide?
The welcome still.
Okay, yes, that's what the issue is here. We're trying to get out of this slide and go to the symbols while the other participant is sharing. Well, is there anybody else sharing? Because it's saying here that I cannot share while somebody else is sharing. Another participant is sharing. I don't think anybody else is sharing.
There it
It's
goes.
okay.
Partner
Okay.
media.
All right. Okay. It's right. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. You know, this is what we call working together. Right. All right. Good. Thank you. All right. Last time we did this, a week ago, I talked about the importance of, or rather, understanding the issue of the media as an agent of change. And what you see on the screen is that partnering with the media as a change agent. And it's important that we get that point because it's important we have a role to play. We talk about activism, talking about action, and here I'm saying partnering with the media as an agent of change, a change agent. The other photo talks about, you know, what social justice changes, mass of people there responding to a call. And we also see on the other side, that's the one to your left, with my right, we're talking about the whole issue of networking across the globe, across areas, regions, etc. All right. Now, why are we doing this today? Just like last week, I said to you, the reason why we are here and why we are doing this is to enhance activism, journalists, and advocates. To develop and build capacity in advocacy, that's also what we're doing, to enable networking with various media outlets, as well as to create a passion for action, and to understand the role of the media to effect change to advocacy and community journalism. Basically, I think those of you who were here last week would have gone to that aspect of it. Media for advocacy. Advocacy. We'll talk about advocacy, we'll talk about activism, we'll also speak about action, which we will take. And just for those who were not here last session, just let me recap briefly what we did. We talked about what is the media, what are the roles and functions of the media, and we talk about the media, and this is very important in going forward here, to inform, educate, entertain, and to interpret. Okay, I guess we would have learned those issues, those things from last session, last part one. You know, I always like to ask us to answer things, questions. So please note this, keep this in your mind. If you have a pen close to you, write it down, or however you can screenshot this, but it's something that we need to come back to later on during the webinar. Now, question one, what are the similarities or differences between a journalist and an advocate? Two, how can the media be an agent for change? How can the media be an agent for change? All right, these are the things that question that please bear in mind that we would want to consider, want to answer closer to the end of this presentation. So here we go, the media and advocacy. The media and advocacy. Media and advocacy. Last week we talked about the media and we explained basically, as I said earlier on, the roles of the media to inform, educate, entertain, and interpret. Now, today we're focusing on media. What exactly is advocacy? Advocacy is public support or recommendation of a particular cause or policy. The act of supporting a cause or proposal. Public support for an idea, a plan, or a way of doing something. The act of speaking on someone or an organization, a place or a thing, like NGOs, NPOs. That's advocacy we're talking about. It's also supporting an issue or cause and defining your specific goals around that cause. I guess we have a understanding here what it is, being engaged in public activities, being engaged in a cause, supporting a cause, promoting a cause. The process in advocacy advocacy is the deliberate process based on demonstrated evidence to directly and indirectly influence decision makers, stakeholders, and relevant audiences to support and implement actions that contribute to the achievement of identified objectives, according to UNICEF toolkit on advocacy. So it's a process. It's a process that we are engaging in. And I like that. It's a deliberate process. So it's not just by accident we stumble on things. We plan, we organize, so that we can achieve our desired goals. Advocacy for change. Advocacy for change. Advocacy is a means of seeking change in governance, attitudes, power, social relations, and institutional functions. It supports action that address barriers to the fulfillment of social goals. The goal can be to address imbalances, inequity, and disparities, also to promote human rights, social justice, and healthy environments, or to further the opportunities for democracy. Advocacy for change also requires organizing. I said a while ago, we need to organize. It's a deliberate effort. So it requires organizing and organization. Advocacy aims to alter the way, again, the word alter is used, but it means change. And we talked earlier on about change, social justice change. So it altered the way power, resources, and ideas are created, consumed, and distributed. So you can get an idea as to what how the importance and the goal and the objective really to alter how we consume and distribute the resources, power, or even ideas, how ideas are created. So that people and organizations have a realistic chance of controlling their own development. So whether you're in Guyana, whether you are in Grenada, whether you're in St. Lucia, whether you're in Barbados, wherever you are, it is the goal to accomplish realistic, it is the goal, the desire to, it's a chance that we are going to be giving ourselves of controlling our own development. We have a say, really, in creating change and enacting change. Let's look at some approaches to advocacy. Last week we talked about media. So approaches to advocacy, media work and public relations, using the media both new and traditional means to deliver messages. So ECADE wants to get its messages out. It goes to the media, put out press releases, and whatever organization it is. Most organizations have Facebook pages. So the message is what I'm talking about here. The message as relates to public relations as well. Most organizations have public relations officers, and they send out the message on behalf of the organization. That's one of the approaches to advocacy. Another approach is campaigning. Create and mobilize the public around advocacy issues, change perceptions, and build support. In campaigning, these are some of the approaches that we take to advocacy. The photo we see in here shows how they are campaigning. We want justice. We want justice. That's basically campaigning for change, to change perceptions and build support. Approaches also include lobbying and influencing. And I think this is a very important aspect of advocacy. Engaging in one-on-one discussions with decision makers to influence them to make policy changes, practices, or behavioral change. Lobbying. And these are some important approaches that we need to understand if we are going to be engaging in advocacy. Talking about what is advocacy and the approaches to advocacy. It's also about social mobilization, engaging multiple levels of society, marginalized and vulnerable, as allies and partners in overcoming barriers to the implementation of programs to protect children and women, older folks, people living with disability, whoever it is, mobilizing social change. So we engage, as you can see here, more mobilization, global for justice. I mean, change is what we're looking for. We also, in terms of approaches to advocacy, we create awareness. Yeah, we are involved in this. We create awareness, delivering persuasive evidence-based and solution-oriented messages to the public, decision makers and stakeholders, and those who influence them. So you have an appreciation here of what are the approaches. Okay, let's just repeat that. We have, of course, social mobilization. We also have lobbying and influencing, campaigning, as well as media work and public relations. And these are areas, I think, that we must, I want to encourage us to include in our activities as organizations or even as individuals with interests in technical ways. Calling for action. Advocacy in motion. So I must pause here and say that if you do have questions, you can, as the moderator said at the beginning, you can indicate in the chat, or you can probably raise your hand, and we'll deal with the questions as we go on. So we're talking about advocacy in motion. It's an activism thing. It's active. It's engaging. It's not something that's static. So to be involved, we have to identifying the cause or causes. Now, I know even now as I speak, there are those of you who already have causes, who already believe in something, who want to stand up for the rights of the vulnerable, the marginalized, you know? So you identify a cause. You do not just get involved in activism with a cause. There has to be a cause. So what is your cause? What are your causes that you are prepared to advocate for? We're also talking about advocacy motion. We are also preparing to influence change. Now, this for me is very, very important. Commitment. Sometimes, you know, we fall off by the wayside. We fall off by the wayside. And our commitment is key in this at this time. We have to understand that there has to be a commitment we make in what we're doing in advocating for whatever the cause is. Probably we'll talk about that in a little while again, but the idea of commitment. How committed are we to stand up in a corner for half a day? How committed are we to go through the night preparing to advocate for issues, to campaign on issues? So commitment is very, very, very important in the aspect of advocacy. That's advocacy in motion. Also, empowerment through building capacity. what we are doing here today is building capacity. So you know how we share with you information, knowledge about how it's done. Empowerment. So we empower you. We want you to be able to appear before your government offices, lobbying for change, because your capacity would have been built to the extent where you know how it's done, as well as networking and collaborating. Networking, of course, ECADE has been leading, in my view, the charge in this area. Networking. Several of us here who are part of this webinar are members of ECADE. They network and bring people together and collaborate for a common cause. That's important. Advocacy, journalism. Now we get back again to media, and we're touching on media. Okay, what is it really? What is it really? If I normally do lectures and teach in several ways, and if I was not in a virtual space, I would have looked to the entire classroom and asked, what is it really? What is it? Advocacy journalism. It's not something that is bandied around very often these days. In fact, to some people it's new. Of course, I must say here that we have health, finance, tourism, fashion, culture. I'm saying these because these are areas and aspects of journalism that people focus on. There are some journalists who just write health issues, just deal with health matters, tourism matters. Some just do sports, whatever it is. That's what we're talking about. Specific aspects, aspects of journalism focusing on specifics. So whatever the interest is, as an advocate, you have specific interests and you will deal with it accordingly. So it is also the advocate as a journalist, or the journalist as an advocate, focusing on issues related to causes, focusing on training, research, awareness, education, etc. That's what we talk about when we say advocacy journalism here. Promotion and lobbying, focusing on sections of people, for example, people living with HIV/AIDS, children, women, girls, boys, men. Activism. So that's what we mean when we talk about advocacy journalism. It is that focus. Now, this is very important here, and I want us to understand the link between media and advocacy. In media, we talk about journalists, talk about reporters, etc. To be an advocate, yes, we talk about someone who takes up causes. What are the parallels? The journalist gathers information, investigates, interviews, and of course, yes, in terms of action. So the journalists go around gathering, look into matters, while the advocate gathers and documents information regarding the particular cause or causes. The parallel, similar. The journalist publishes data and information creating awareness. The advocate creates awareness and calls for action, Yeah. Another parallel is the journalist is the trained person in mass communication. The advocate engages in activism with the intent to effect change. As advocates, you are very important. I must make this point here. You are very important. If you can recall last session when we talked about the journalists, the journalists or the media was said to be part of the fourth estate, described as the fourth estate, meaning that we have the legislature, we have the executive, and we have the judiciary. These are arms of state, talking about governance. And the media comes in there as a fourth estate, fourth arm of state, all right? And you as an advocate you are very important, similar as a journalist that does all the work in going and gather news and share it with others. Now, there's also not only advocacy journalism, but we also have community journalism. Again, I ask the question, what is it? Community journalism is locally oriented. Professional news coverage that typically focuses on city, neighborhoods, villages, rural areas, etc., individual suburbs or small towns, rather than big cities, states, national or world news. So you get that point, that it is at a community base. So if you look around in your small area right now, what do you see? Everybody depends on international news. But you can also be involved in sharing with the community that you are part of. It covers wider topics. Community journalism concentrates on the effect they have on local readers. Community newspapers often, but not always, publish weekly and also tend to cover subjects larger news media do not. Guess we understand that it is. You know, I always like to think in terms of when I talk about community journalism, really. I don't know, several of you across the region may have news boards, community boards in your area. Of course, billboards with news information about what's happening with the community, basically. Some examples of topics are students on the honor roll, school-wise now, the local school, school sports. You know, you won't find those big media houses coming and sometimes cover your school sports. What happens, crime, well, they may deal with some crime such as vandalism and so on. But it is community focused. So the people in the community can have an idea, understand the news, just as the others who may not, or just those who are in the bigger cities, etc. Working together, we're talking about activism, teamwork, yes? And I'm talking here not just in your own individual space, but as a team. You know, just before I go on, I continue on this. I like to always say when I in forums and sessions as these, the importance of teamwork, really, yeah. And I like to also say as well, team doesn't have an I. Team doesn't have an I. Not about I, not about me, not about one or so. It's about team. Together, everyone act measurably or meaningfully. That's how I define team. Together, everybody acts together. So some activities to consider in terms of your activism here, working together. You can consider participation in community organizations, you know, so wherever you are, it might be youth groups, sports groups, whatever your interest is, you know, participate, get involved. You know, the boys club, the cadet corps, whatever it is, get involved in some activities. A women's group, participate. And activism is really about participation. So as well as actively build capacity. And it's important that if you're going to be involved in activism, we have to know what we're talking about. The worst thing is to go and go to with a message, and you don't know what the message is, or you don't understand the message. And that is very, very important. We have to constantly be building capacity. And I like to refer to capacity here, use this example, the 5 P's principle. The 5 P's principle. And the 5 P's are proper supervision, prevent poor performance. So you see how when you put on it is that we need to know what we're talking about, we need to understand what are the issues, because we want to prevent poor performance. As well as activism is also about access, the opportunities available in media and advocacy. So we're working together, accessing the opportunities. And you may never know. Right now as we speak, there can be opportunities that are available in the media and advocacy. You can decide to specialize in these areas. You can say, I am going to be an advocate. And there are opportunities for that, really. A lot of the world these days moving towards the whole issue of activism. We've seen that happening. And there's a need for activism. So many things are going wrong. So many things are going wrong, like discrimination, like victimization, injustice. We need people to stand up against these things, and that's what I'm talking about. Actively involved, actively being engaged, participating. So I really want you to consider, as an activist, as an advocate, getting involved and being part of this process. Medium to be determined based on context. So if you want to get involved and you want to give your cause, based on where you are, you don't want to go in a community and they don't have access to Wi-Fi and they want to send messages, through that means. Whatever is available, you determine that, and we'll talk about that as we go on. And the message, effective communication skills. We're talking about building together, activism, effective communication skills, messaging and public relations, etc. We're talking about how we can get our messages out effectively. As we go on. Activism. You don't do it one week and say I'm tired. You don't do it 1 week and say I'm tired. You keep on at it. You not get it right the first time, but you keep at it. Practice. You have to also produce, and keep on producing. That is the essence of empowerment. Be doing things. You may not always get it right, and don't feel a hole. Don't feel pressured. Oh, that you did not get through. It is something continuous. I like the word activism. Something that you keep doing. Active. You keep doing it, and you keep presenting. Be present as well. Show up. Oh, don't say I'm tired, I can take on these people. Show up. As a team, as a group, we produce. Individually and collectively, we keep practicing our skills. It's a skill, like a journalist, I've gone through several training workshops, not only training at a official level in sense of university or school or such, but I've attended several workshops all over the Caribbean in terms of understanding what being a journalist is. Yes? So let's understand we have to be involved. We have to participate. And as I said earlier on, this for me is very, very, very important, a commitment. If you know that you are going to be in this just for the fame of it, the love of it, just to get glory and to be seen in the limelight, I think you need to think. Because you do need to have a passion for action. Do you really want to see women in your community are empowered? Do you want to see the boys that run the streets all the time? Do you want to see that they have a good education? Do you want to see the senior citizen, who is left undone on the side? Do you have a passion for what you are doing right now? Are you committed enough to say, I'm going to be, I mean, I don't want to really talk about putting your life in a line, but that's what it equates to. I'm so committed. I have a passion. I want to see change, action. So I am going to be present. I'm going to be, I'll show up. I'll empower myself. I get to know what my rights are. I get to know what the issues are. So are you prepared to practice what you preach? So if you say that I want to see change, I want to change, or only want to be in a comfort zone, it won't happen. Are you prepared to practice what you preach, what you believe? So what are your next steps? Really? I repeat this. Do you have a passion for action? Sometimes we start off hot and sweaty. And sometimes the commitment only lasts because we have been affected. But when you are not affected and somebody else is affected, you say, well, that's for them. But the passion I want to see. And I said earlier on, for me, commitment is a big thing in activism. To be an advocate, we need to have that kind of commitment, really. So what do we do now? What are your next steps? Stand up for something. Let's work together to build a community of advocates. And I'm sure the fact that you are attending this webinar and you're listening to me right now is an indication that you will likely be part of a community of advocates that can create change, that can lobby, that can get you to some of your dreams come true, your desires, your wants, your aspirations, whatever it is. The appeal right now, the call for action right now is to let us work together to build a community of advocates. You can learn from me, I can learn from you. Let's share. Whatever area you are in, activism is what it is. And I ask you, do you have any questions? I wish you do have questions. The last time around, we had questions in the chat, on the chat. I don't think I'm seeing any questions in the chat, but this is what it is. As advocates, so you see how closely related you are to the journeys. Yeah. So let's really look at this very seriously and take it very seriously. Not because we want to be in the limelight. We say, I want to be an advocate. Sometimes it's rough riding. Commitment is very, very important. Yeah. So what have we talked about? Advocacy, activism, and action. So I ask you if you have any questions, but you didn't answer. Or I think there might be a question, but I'm asking you the question. No, I'll answer your other question in a while. Are you ready for action? Are you ready for action? Are you ready so that we can change what we've seen happening? The discrimination, the poverty level because of corruption, Are we ready to fight? Are you ready to stand up to burn the midnight oil? Are we ready? So there's a question there. Let me see if I can go to the question and probably come back to probably the end of the slide. Yeah, do we have questions? I see. Yes. Okay. I thank you, Maria. And I think it's important that we understand that we need to. This is a call.
Milton, I have a question.
Yes, please.
How do we, as advocates, enhance our visibility through different media agents? Like, how do we engage in the traditional media that we have available now?
Okay, thanks for the question. You know, last week we talked about the journalists and the media as part of what they do. Sorry. Yes. How do? We have encouraged that we partner with local media. So in other words, you know, we know what the media does in that regard. So we keep them close. They are allies, not adversaries. So how do we partner with, get to know them more, because when we have things to send out, we use them to send it out, either print, radio, television. So we have to take the initiative. Most times they will not come to you, or when they come to you, it's always most times it's something negative, but you take the initiative as an advocate. I want to get my things out. And so, you know, you look around and see who has the interest. Someone might call you, might not call you, but you have an interest in getting this message out. So we have to take that initiative, and I call that action. Taking action to get our messages out. Anita, I hope that helped.
Yes, thank you. That did.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we do have to be able to know what we want. I want to encourage my community to have respect for the elders. Yeah. So I would link up with a media house and say, listen, have you considered that all those homeless people you see, they are senior people? And yeah, a good story idea, homelessness. We call in the region here something like vagrancy. And those are things that happens. You know? So yes, we take the initiative as far as it relates to whatever we see happen.
How would you propose that we kept motivation and momentum once it's getting started?
That's what empowerment is. We keep on strengthening our arm. We empower ourselves. Because the worst thing to do is to go out there not knowing the facts, not knowing having the information that we need. You saw earlier on a short slide about data. So we have to plan and organize. So we know we want to talk about what? An issue, corruption. So we have to study that. I mean, know where it is. Motivated, keep empowering ourselves every day. You know, an advocate is like someone who goes out there and just champion causes and just you know, stand up in the street with placards and so on, lobby, go to the government houses, go to the ambassador's office and say, listen, I understand that you're going to speak on this issue next week. Now, this is what my organization stands for. This is how we would like you to help us out here. They may as well as may not, but the idea that you told them, you share with them what you believe should happen. Yeah, lobbying, whatever it is. So you take the initiative and empower yourself, because you know I still believe that knowledge is power. I don't think it will change anytime soon. And so the more you know, the stronger you're going to be and stay motivated. Yeah. You know, whenever I do a presentation and people ask questions, I say, well, I've done so good. That, you know, I've done so well that everybody understands. Everybody understands, and I'm happy. Thank you. I understand that you are taking this in. And most importantly, as we probably end this, it is about action, your commitment. So what I want to get out of this session is I am taking action. I believe this, and I will take action. I have a passion for what I know is right. Passion. Dylan, I see you smiling. Thank you.
I am, because if I were to make any comment, it was just to basically agree with what you have said. Um, it's about believing in what it is you want to do, believing that what you're doing is the correct thing. And sometimes I don't like to use the word correct, but it's the correct thing, and that trusting where you want to go with your advocacy, and knowing that the steps that you take towards that are the right ones, and they will lead you where you want to go. So it's basically just agreeing with all of what you have said in this presentation.
Yes. It's like, you know, your belief. I believe things have to change. And I'll go all out to make it change, no matter what they say about me or what they think about me. I believe this has to change. I believe there should be equity in the distribution of the wealth of this region. I believe that. So I'll stand up for that. I believe that children have a right to go to school. And not that they go to school, but have a right to an education that can help them to grow as and to be solid, sound citizens. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that doesn't matter you have a disability, you have a right to be heard. You are right. You're just as important. And I think that that requires from us passion. You know, let me just make this point that there are times, you know, that sometimes, in my experience, really, sometimes you have to find yourself defending people who just oppose you. And you know, you're fighting for them. You have passion for what you're doing. I will put my neck on the block. But the people who you're doing it for are the ones who are throwing stones at you. What do? Change your passion? Say, okay, all right, guys, I see that you all like me, so I go and sleep. No, that's the commitment I'm talking about. And because you have passion for action, you are going to ensure that you stand up, you stand your ground. Don't move. Marsha, you don't move. Maria, you don't move.
I'm smiling because that is an experience that I have lived. I was the president of a women's organization, and in working towards betterment for the women, some of those same women were the ones that I had to fight. So I understand that very well. And sometimes the people that you are working for are the people that you have to fight.
Yeah, I won't say fight. I will say, well, I won't do fight. I mean, I would just smile and say, you give me more fire because I know what I'm doing. I'm committed. If you oppose me and you're the one I want, that you are the beneficiary. I say, wow, this is interesting. So I keep on going because I know one day you can change. With the message I can give you, you can change, and you can be on my side and now say, let's go and fight now. But I will stick to it, and that's important. Change will come. My fellow colleagues, I'm saying change is here, it's on its way, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. So I think that's basically you know, important for me to say, because we do need to know that. I just wanted to probably end here as we go to the end. Just let me get this here. All right. So thank you for all of you. And I would like to share with all organizations that need to be empowered and want to be empowered so you can do your work. You're interested in change. You're interested in change. I'm available. I am available. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Milton. I think that was a very good and thoughtful presentation. I think most of us probably will live with something, if not two. And having the commitment to want to get into advocacy and activism and having that push and passion to continue moving forward, I think that's one of the best things that we could get out of that today. So thank you very much from all of us here at ECADE and all those online for that very good presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just trying to, oh, it was nice. All right, so guidance, peace, love, power. Power, one time they used to say black power. Now it's power for change. Join us, the Grenada Human Rights Organization. We are here to change. Thank you again.
You're welcome, and this is where we come to the end of this session for today. Join us next week, Wednesday, for another session, and look out for the flyer very soon. So thank you very much once again, and bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.